All right. So, hey everybody, and welcome to my very first episode of Talking Shit. And as you guys know, I told you guys that I was going to bring in my homegirl, Sierra, but she's more than just my homegirl. She actually does my branding. So she's like my brand manager, definitely one of the most important people on my team. This is very on brand for us. I am a very la 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 la, like we'll flow, we'll go however it's supposed to go, versus Sierra is very. I need structure. I need questions. I need
Absolutely.
I need to know like what we're doing. Blah blah blah. Me,
Correct.
not so much, right? So 1 second. All right, there we go. So this episode is probably one that I think I've dreaded the longest having. Just because I feel like in the last 5 years, I've experienced so much grief that sometimes it was hard to put into words. Um, but I've grown through that grief, right? And I've learned how to manage through that grief. So here we are. So we're gonna kick this off. I'm gonna let Sierra introduce herself, give you a little bit of background about what she does, and then we'll both roll into our stories. And because Sierra needs questions, we'll we'll go and we'll talk about some questions. So go ahead, Sierra.
Alrighty. Well, hello everyone. My name is Sierra Sharilla. And yeah, first off, I want to say thank you, Ashley, for having me on this first episode. I know this is a long time coming. I am just very proud of you. I want to say that publicly out here. I always tell you anyway. But for those of you who do not know me, I am a full-time marketer and a part-time social creator, and I also have my own creative studio called Coop Creative Studio, where I do all things branding, brand identity, web design, marketing strategy, brand strategy, all of those good things, which is how Ashley and I connected through a referral of one of my prior clients. So since then, she has been locked in. And so I'm just super excited to kind of talk through this. I have never, talked about grief and healing. Like I kind of talk about it a little bit on my YouTube channel, which is a little bit of C over on YouTube. And so I just talked through about, my journey and healing and going through grief, things of that nature. But I've never actually like sat down and like, had a discussion like this. I'm super excited to bring this to a wider and broader audience and really connect with some people on this.
All right, so let's get into it. So I won't put you on the spot right now. I
Okay.
will. No, I am gonna put you on the spot. So let's go through your journey with grief. When did you first experience grief, and what did that look like for you?
Wow. Now, if you want to say first, I would say like when I was younger, experience, grief as far as, death in the family and things of that nature. But, that's definitely different from childhood or adolescence to adulthood. Like I feel like grief is different because as a child, you don't really know. It's like, you lost someone, but it's not as significant until you're, a little bit older. So for me, I would say more recently, I lost my uncle. He had been a part of my life since I was probably like 14. So like basically like half my life, right? And so that was very hard on our entire family, immediate family, his side of family, our side of the family. It was very difficult. And I didn't really realize I was grieving. Like I felt like, it was definitely unexpected. Like he just went into the hospital because, of some issues that he was having. But in your mind, you're like, okay, you just here to get better. And you gonna walk out, we all gonna go home and everybody gonna check on you every hour and an hour and we gonna move on. But to be in the hospital and the doctors come to you and say, he's the sickest patient in the hospital. It's just like, huh? It just left me with a lot of shock. And I don't want to like make this about me because again, like my entire family, like we all, like grieved in our own separate way. But, to hear that news and then it was just shocking. And so when, they basically called it, or whatever, I just went into a state of shock. I was sad. Like he was very present in my life. I'm my mom's only child. My other siblings, they all live in another state, along with my father, stuff like that. So like, I didn't really have much of a father figure that was present, all the time. And so he was, just present as a figure in my life for so long. And so to lose that, was difficult. And so I think, I didn't realize I was grieving until like one day, it's not funny, but one day I was like in the kitchen, I just started crying. I was like cooking dinner and I just started crying. And I'm like, why am I crying? And so it brought back a memory or like unlocked the memory because he taught me how to make French toast. And I was cooking French toast. And the connection mentally in my mind just like went to that and I just started crying. And I knew at that moment, like, wow, I am grieving. Like, and everyone's grief journey is not the same. Some people cry all the time. Some people don't cry at all. Like they don't cry for years or they don't, grieve for years. So for me, it was very like, I wouldn't say consistent. I think at the beginning it was like kind of weekly. Then it was like every other week. And then it became where I was just having these moments where I just felt sad. And at first I didn't know why, but I think it was because I was just in that period of grieving.
So I can definitely relate to that. I've experienced grief so much throughout my life. Like, I mean, at two, like my grandfather passed in the house. I've watched my aunt, might as well say, damn near take her last breath in front of me. And then like losing my dad in 2019, and I think that was a different type of grief because I tell people when you lose a parent, like that's a different type of hurt. You're never the same person ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was literally driving to church and I got a text message that was like, I'm so sorry. Like I just gave your dad a hug. Like I'm here for you and Auntie Tanya, which is my bonus mom, his wife. And I'm like, what? What the hell are you talking about? And I remember literally calling my mom and I'm like, if you know me, you know this is how I talk. I'm like, yo, I think my dad is dead. And she's like, huh? And I read the text message to her and I remember calling my bonus mom and she didn't pick up. And I just felt this gut wrenching feeling. I'm like, yeah, my dad is gone. And I remember pulling into the church parking lot and my bonus mom finally called me back and she's like, baby, I'm sorry. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And I just, I'm just crying. And a lot of people don't know this, but my dad and I weren't speaking before he passed. So I had to deal with grief. I dealt with guilt. I dealt with so much during that time. And I remember, sucking it up. I remember going into the church and telling everybody, like, hey, I can't make service. Like, my dad just passed away. I got to go. And I remember getting in the car. So immediately in my mind, I went into business mode. So I'm like, I got to call my mom. I'm the only child here. So now I have to call my brothers. I have to call this person. Like, I never fully grieved until months later. Like, I cried. I was sad. But I didn't have a breakdown until the memorial service. And I remember coming out of the service and I'm like just falling to my knees because I'm like, I've literally just had to make memorial arrangements for my father. My father's on an obituary. Like, he's not here. I never got to say the things that I wanted to say. And like that grief is a grief that you never stop grieving, because it's like, this was my parent, this is half of my DNA, this is half of who they are. And so now for me, there used to be a certain song by Frank Ocean, Godspeed. I could never listen to that song without like crying. I mean, boo hoo on the highway, that's me, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yo, like, this is wild, this is crazy. And I'm just like, okay, like, how do I keep going on? And I have two brothers, but I've always been like the strong sibling. I've always been the sibling that's like, yo, I got you. Like, what do you need? Are you okay? And so we go into that, and then like that's May 2019. And then you have the uncle that raised me that passes away in February of 2020. So I'm like 8 months, like I'm still grieving my father. And then you come, and like now you're gone. And at this time I was married, and so the last conversation I had with him was, like, I'm gonna be strong to walk you down the aisle. And it's like, I don't have my dad. I don't have my uncle. And then you move out of that, and now I'm like in a separation stage of my marriage. And so I'm grieving like just deaths, because grieving a marriage or relationship is a death. It's a different type of grievance. But I'm like, I'm just getting hit back to back to back, and then I'm getting sick. Like I'm getting sicker. Don't know why. So now it's like, okay, 2 years later, like you get past all of that. 2 years later, you find out you have Crohn's disease. So now you have to grieve this person you were. Now I'm on an IV machine. Now my life is not the same as what it was. Then we go into the hospital. Now you septic. Now you have this. And I'm like, yo, like what? When does it stop? But all the while, like, life doesn't stop. Like, life keeps going. So I'm having to figure out what this looks like. I gotta grieve, but I'm taking care of the dog. I gotta take care of me. I still have to figure out my mental. And it's wild when you think about it. Because you're like, yo, how the hell? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
well, what am I supposed to do? Like, help.
what am I supposed to do? And and my biggest accomplishments, like, you're not here. So like I said, I've witnessed my grandfather passing, my aunt, my grandmother. You have my dad, my uncle, like my nail tech just passed away not too long ago. So I'm just like, yo, what? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a thing. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, you are very strong. You are very strong to have to experience that pretty much back to back. You really didn't get a full year to really kind of come to terms with really anything. So I know that was definitely a lot. And I know how you are. So I know that you was just truly trying to fight through it, not asking for help, not doing nothing, just trying to carry the load, which is like, I feel like as Black women, that's what we do. Like, we carry the load, carry our own load, carry loads of our friends, our families, significant others. Like, we carry everybody's load. And then when we experience things like this, not to say that not everyone is supportive, but not everybody knows how to like show up for you, even though you consistently show up for them. So
Yeah, and I think that was a thing too. Like, I had people, like a year after like my dad passed, where they're like, yo, like, he wouldn't want you to be sad, he would want you to be this way. Like, you don't know that. You know what I'm saying?
like, how you know? He told you something?
Right, like, you don't know that, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know what he would want. He would want me to do exactly what I'm doing, which
Right.
is,
Right.
leaning into my feelings and my emotions, and doing what it is, like, I'm supposed to, doing what I need to do. And I think for me, like, in all honesty, when it came to my dad, like, I didn't realize I wasn't grieving literally until my best friend called me and was like, yo, do you realize, like, you're just going?
Mhm.
She's like, and you, like, you have not stopped. Like, I literally started a new job, like, a couple of weeks after my dad's memorial. And she's like, you haven't stopped. She's like, you have not grieved. She's like, you've been on the go. You've been checking on your brothers. You've been making sure, like, your bonus mom is good. She's like, but you're here. And that's literally what it was. Like, I was just existing. I was a zombie.
Mhm.
And you're right. I'm very used to being the one that's always there. I'm always the one that's like, okay, we gonna figure it out. Like, I'm here, whatever you need. And then
Mhm.
I'm like, yo, like, I'm in the bathroom balled up crying because, like, I done lost my daddy, I done lost my uncle, like, I've lost my marriage. So now I think I failed as a wife because marriage is supposed to be forever, and this is the idea that I
Right.
have in my head. And now
Right.
I'm like, well, damn, what we doing? What we doing?
Right.
All right, so with that, like, how did you navigate your grief in the workplace? Because of course life goes on.
Right. Um, it's funny that you asked that or said that because literally around that time that was happening, my job was shutting down. So yeah, and I don't think a lot of people know that or knew that. But when I found out that I found out my uncle was sick, and then it was already like office rumors about our job shutting down, closing. Like basically everybody need to find a new job. I was had already started the grieving process of about to like lose a job, basically.
Mm.
And then in the midst of that, um, uncle passed, and then I was trying to take bereavement, and they was like, "You can't do that." So I couldn't take bereavement, but I still like had some PTO left. And then I remember the weekend of his funeral. We were out of town because the funeral was in Florida, and my job was just like blowing me up. Like, you need to come in the office. You need to come in the office. You have. I'm like, can I do this meeting virtually? You guys know, like, I'm out of town. Like, I'm really like trying to work through some things here. Like, please bear with me. Like, show a little grace. And they was not having it. So I end up going back home just for them to say, like, yeah, you need to turn in your laptop, your computer, clean out your cubicle because this job is no longer. So this was literally like a couple of days after the funeral. So grieving the loss of my uncle, plus the funeral, plus the job loss, like everything was just weighing heavy on me. And I relate to kind of like what you were saying. I'm like, am I like failing at life? Like, what is going on? Like, I just had all these different emotions. So it was difficult being in the workplace kind of like those last couple of weeks because I just wasn't in tune. I was what you were saying earlier, like I was just existing. I was just going through the motions, trying to just make sure my work was bare minimum and just trying to get things done. So, it was very difficult. And then like having, an employer that I wouldn't say wasn't supportive, but I think they could have been a bit more supportive. I think there was a lot of opportunity and room for them to be a bit more, supportive during that time. But, it is what it is. But I think, having to go to work, working full time, grieving, whether that be a loss of a family member, a friend, or just any kind of grief that you're going through, being in the workplace is difficult, because you don't want to go in there crying. You don't want to be in the bathroom all day crying. You definitely don't want anybody walking up to you or in your cubicle like, oh my God, do you need a hug? Like, I'm just like, oh, did we lose Ashley? Hold on, y'all. I think Ashley popped off somewhere.
I'm back.
Okay, there we go. I got scared. I was like, what she do?
No, so I realized that this isn't streaming on Instagram.
Oh, it's not streaming on Instagram.
It's not. So it's streaming on Facebook, but it's not streaming on Instagram. So I had to
Oh,
come
wow.
on back. So I had to come
Okay.
on back in and
Let me
add
see.
uh in the Instagram. So that's basically what I'm doing right now.
Okay, because okay, some people have been texting me. Hold on, give me just a second. They trying to
Mhm.
see where the live is at. Been texting me. Hold on, give me just a second. They trying to see where the live. There we go.
All right. Oh, I think I got it now.
Did you get it? Okay, I'm trying to make a quick post. I know we like 20 minutes in,
I
but
made it. We did it.
okay. All right. Where is the picture that you shared of this real
You know we
quick? Hold
live
on.
right now, right?
Uh-oh. I'm sorry.
You
Hey
fine?
y'all.
Right. We
Little
got it
technical
now.
difficulties. Okay. I'm trying to add the link to my story real quick. So because I went live on mine is live on YouTube. Because that's
Hey,
where most of my
Nicole.
audience is at. But there we go. Okay.
We back. We did it. We
We
figured it
back.
out. All right.
But yeah, so I know you for the people that's just kind of like joining Ashley, and I were just kind of like talking about grieving through the workplace, like being in the workplace, having to grieve the loss of, family, relationships. For me, it was job loss in general. So just kind of trying to navigate through that. And I was just explaining that, it's difficult all the way around. Like, no matter how you see it, like, having to go to work, still put your best foot forward. And especially if you're like a overachiever or a perfectionist and you are always on your P's and Q's like myself, like it's difficult to try to show up for your job when you can barely show up for yourself. Like, I can't even show up for me right now, even though like I was going through the motions, it was still very, difficult in those weeks. But I think what got me through was just a lot of prayer. Honestly, just I prayed a lot. I tried to get as much sleep as possible, and I still tried to just give myself grace and like allow myself to cry, to still do things that I enjoyed a little bit, but just kind of like trying to get back into the group of things because, like you were mentioning earlier, actually, like life still goes on. Like it's not like it pauses for you, right? Like things still need to happen, things are still happening, and so you have to be in a good mindset to be able to handle different things that may come at you. So that's
All
kind
right.
of like what is
So,
happening with me. It's just trying to get my mindset right to even just still move forward.
because we just joined on IG, give you guys a little bit of backstory from the past 20 minutes. Praise God that I learned how to work. I'm in technology and had to learn how to work something so simple. Wow. But we spoke on like I lost my dad in 2019. And then I lost the uncle that raised me in February of 2020. Um, and then I basically went through the loss of, I was basically in the middle of losing my marriage. I was in the process of a separation. And then I basically, had the divorce and then dealing with just medical issues, being diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And from being diagnosed with Crohn's disease, I was hooked up to an IV machine, um, basically all day, every day, which then my body started rejecting it, and it led me to being septic in 2023, where I was hospitalized for 10 days. So basically just navigating like what that grief looks like, but me still having to continue with my life. I am the only child here in Atlanta, so I'm always the one like making sure my brothers are okay, my younger brother, my older brother, and just not really grieving the process of my father being gone. Like I mentioned, what a lot of people don't know is my dad and I weren't speaking before he passed away. So I dealt with grief and guilt at the same time. But me and him, we're in a better place. We talk every day. So we're in a way better place. Um, and then Sierra spoke about, losing her uncle, which was like her father figure to her. And so now, as we've gone through all of this grief, figuring out what life looks like, beyond that grief. I know for me, it was crazy because like in the middle of all of this, like I became a fur mom, right? So now I have like this dog that I absolutely love, but I was not fucking with my dog the first 6 months of her life. Like my ex-wife, they were best friends. That dog only came to me when she wanted to go to sleep. And I just couldn't, like, for real, like, Dior would be like, yeah, I'm not fucking with you, lady. Like, but when I want to go to sleep, I know who to come to.
I need to come. Correct.
But it was also because like I just honestly I didn't have the love to give her. Like I was so depleted from like losing my dad, losing my uncle, and like around the time I got Dior is really when like my marriage was starting to go downhill. So I didn't have it. And I just remember I remember one day my ex-wife was at work and it was just me and Dior in the house and I was like, look, we gotta love each other. Like you're my dog at this point. So from that day forward, her and I have been inseparable, but she's really been one of the things that has gotten me through a lot of tough times in my life as far as like grieving, just depression, being suicidal. Like it's her. So I have that thing now where I'm like, okay. And I think a lot of times people see the strong one and think like, oh, she's okay, like, oh, she can handle it. And it's like, no, like I
Right.
have days where, I'm having these huge accomplishments, great things are happening for me, and I ain't got my daddy. I don't have my
Yeah.
uncle, you know. And it's a tough pill to swallow because I still some days will pick up my phone like I gotta call my daddy, and then I'm like, oh wait, you can't. Um, so yeah, I can't believe I'm crying. That's crazy as hell.
Don't do that because I'm a bag full of water, so I'm gonna just look over to the side and just.
Just not cry.
I'm
So
supporting you. I want you to know you are supported, but I also want you to know that once I start crying, I can't stop. So, what's the next question?
so what are some strategies you use to cope with grief and loss?
You said, what are some strategies?
Strategies you've used to cope with grief and loss.
Whew, strategies to cope with grief. I don't know if it's really a strategy, but I would say still have a routine. I think that's important to kind of like get in alignment with self, is to like have a routine, knowing what you need to do like on a daily basis, but not too much of that. Still, have those moments where you go out and do some other things that you enjoy. I would say, getting creative, maybe getting into something that's like artsy, something that you can truly like express yourself in. I know for me, a couple of months ago, I like picked up a coloring book. And at first I was like, that's real childish. That's real childish. But then like I thought about it and I'm like, that's not childish. Like it's coloring. Like it allows you to like just kind of express yourself using the different colors, like filling in the lines, drawing outside the lines. Like, I don't know, it just allowed me to be creative. And maybe because I'm a creative person, is just kind of aligned with me. But yeah, I would say, you know, one, having a strategy, two, doing things that you enjoy, and still give yourself, you know, some grace and affirm yourself very often. You know, like in your situation, like I would have said, like, tell yourself you are great, you are worthy, you are deserving, you are doing great, you are where you need to be. You know, like you have to speak, you know, life into yourself to just really realign, have a good mindset. Wellness is something that's really big for me, especially recently, like with just managing your emotions and regulating. And like, I've just done so much research and things like that as far as like what all that is about. Cause I don't know about you, but like, I feel like millennials, like we didn't really learn about all that, like emotional regulation and stress management. Like,
No.
I don't think we learned about all that. So that is something that's very new to me now. And so I really love that stuff because it's like, first of all, where's this information like in college and being a new adult? But now I feel like that's something we should be teaching like the younger, oh my God, the younger generation. I'm
Come
old.
on, Auntie.
The
Come
younger
on,
generation,
Auntie.
as far as like, you know, in this situation when you are grieving, like what are some things that you can do to kind of help you grow through this experience that you're having. And so I just think all of that is very important. Just mindset, alignment, prayer, all of that, like incorporate all of that into some form of a routine, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly. I know what's popular now is like monthly resets and all this stuff like on TikTok and Instagram that I see like,
No,
yeah, do those things, do
I
a monthly
reset
reset.
daily.
You would say what?
I reset daily. Okay.
Oh, you reset daily. Correct. Reset
I
daily if
mean,
you
my
have to.
home, yeah.
Just start all that stuff over every day if you need to. But I just think at the end of the day, do what works best for you. I know I kind of went around the question, but it's difficult to answer because everyone grieves differently. And so what thing may work for you may not work for me or like vice versa. So I think it's about trial and error and just really figuring out what works for you in your routine in your life, you know, your day-to-day type of lifestyle.
Yeah, I think for me, everybody knows when I go into my closet, leave me alone. Like,
Yeah,
I have if you've been to my space, you know, like, I don't even let you cover my closet until I've covered my altar. Um, and for me, like, my closet is such a sacred space because I have, like, all of my homies, my ancestors up there, right? And in times where like I feel like the weight of the world on me, like going in there, and it may sound crazy, like I will sometimes sleep in my closet. Like there's a pallet like in my closet right now.
that's fine.
And like I'll go in there and I'll like light my candles, like I'll turn on my soundbar music and like I'll just sleep in there because although like they're not there physically, like I can literally feel them. Like I can hear them, telling me like keep going. Like my dad always called me boo boo, and he'd be like, keep going, boo boo, or he always be like, you're my trooper, and I'm like, no, no, like I don't want to be this, I don't. And I remember when I first got engaged, and I was so happy, and I literally picked up the phone, and I'm like about to call my dad, and I'm like, what the fuck you doing? Like you
Mm.
can't. I'm like, you can't call him. And so in moments where I want to do that, I just like go in the closet and I'm like, yo, like, let me tell you about such and such. But like, do y'all know? Or I'd be like, yo, if you were still here, I know this would not be happening. You know what I'm saying? Um, Therapy for me has been really huge in like that
Mm.
grief process because I honestly, I didn't, it probably sounds weird. I didn't know how to grieve, right? I just thought
A lot
grieving
of
was
people
just,
don't. I don't
yeah.
think it's not a thing. Like people be like, how to grieve. Like you allow your body to just do what it needs to do.
And I wasn't. Like, so every time I would feel myself about to cry, every time I feel myself about to break down, I'd be like, no, you got to go to work.
Mm.
No, you got to take care of Dior. No, like, you can't. So that's what I mean. Like, I didn't know how to. grieve. I knew when, like, after my separation, oh, I was batshit crazy. Like,
Mm.
that's when, like, the mental for me heightened. So, like, during my separation, when I say y'all would have, like, I was should have been on Snapped. Like, I should have been on Snapped. You know what I'm saying?
You need to be on Snap anyway, but that's another conversation for another topic.
Like I'm jumping on the bed crazy. You know what I'm saying? But it was just a combination of me dealing with so much, and now you're telling me like I'm separated. On top of that,
Yeah.
we everybody finna go. All us gotta go at this point. Everybody, got, we all gotta go. We all gotta go. And I think for me, like dealing with so much grief, like definitely piled on to like that last suicide attempt for me because there's no way like I should have ever locked myself in the bathroom and held a gun to my head. Like that's how bad it got. But it was just too much, like all the important people in my life are gone. My marriage is ending. What the fuck else is there? Like what else can you possibly like give me? And it was honestly like at that breaking point where I actually like took everything seriously, like got the help. And while I was like in the mental institution, um, it was one of those things where it's like, fuck, you never grieved anything. Like you
Yeah.
cried, but you ain't grieved shit. Like you literally just kept going and going and going and going. And when people be like, "You're okay," yeah, I'm fine. You good? Yeah, I'm fine. But on the inside, like I was breaking into a million pieces,
Mm.
and I couldn't. I couldn't fix it. So grief it's a motherfucker. And if you join my life, you know I curse a lot. So if you're from Sierra side, I'm sorry, but
Not if you from now. Ashley, please.
just saying, I'm gonna curse. Um,
It's fine.
so like my strategies now is definitely like therapy, and I have moments like Father's Day just passed, his birthday just passed, where I'm like everything is like kind of back to back for me. So you have like my dad passed, then you have like my nephew's birthday, you have my bonus mom's birthday, then you have his birthday, then you have Father's Day. So
Mm-hmm.
I take the moments now and I allow them to come however they come, and I allow the feelings to feel whatever they are, and I always do something that reminds me of them. So like my dad loved Moo Cow. I'm not drinking that shit no more. Like
Mm.
I drank so much of that with him to the point where I don't even want to, but it's on my altar. So like I pour out a shot for him. I take a shot of tequila. My uncle loved puzzles. I'm not doing no puzzle, but I'll go buy a puzzle. I'm not sitting over
Yeah.
there doing that shit. I'm not doing it. So I try to do things that like reminds me of them. And even when
Mm-hmm.
I'm in conversations with people, like I always wear their chains. So it's always my uncle on one side, my dad on another, and I flip it weekly. And I know when my dad side is on, um, it's a no nonsense thing with me. Like,
Mm.
don't fucking play with me. When my uncle's side is on, it's like, okay, yeah, let's talk about it. Like I want to talk to you. Like, let's talk. So I can, I literally feel them, and I'm grateful for each person that has, gone within my life for everything that they basically, instilled in me and brought me through. So
Yeah.
my next question for you is outside of death, what other type of grief have you ever experienced?
Um, I talked about job loss grief thing. Um, but I think other types of griefs that I don't think people really think is grief is like friendships and like relationships. Like grieving the loss of maybe friends that you've known for a long time or being in relationships like how you're talking about your, your former marriage and stuff like that. Like all of that is grief, like that is loss. And so those are some of the things, well, not marriage, but those are some of the things that I've experienced loss of, just friendships, relationships, things like that. And it's difficult. And then it also depends on what happened in, those situations. Just sometimes friends drift apart, go apart. And then you have situations where there's a little bit more trauma involved and things kind of going on. So I just think, it's important, kind of referring back to the previous question, is like, it's important to have tools and resources. So when these kind of major events happen, like in your life, you kind of know how to get yourself through it, but still allow yourself to like grieve through it all. And not like, I think the biggest thing is like not rejecting the grief. I think there was a time in my life, or a moment in my life, where I was kind of like you, like not wanting to really grieve, like telling myself like I have to keep pushing, I have to keep going forward. And I wasn't allowing myself to like let go, because I wasn't allowing myself to grieve the loss of the things that I was losing, if that makes sense. And so once I allowed myself to just truly grieve and get through, that helped me kind of get to the next step in life and really kind of enter the healing part of it, which is healing through the loss and becoming a better person, a new woman in a sense, and just allowing, allowing God to pour into me and open up new doors of opportunities, and allow me to have, more space and capacity for, better things to come into my life. And so once I allowed myself to do that, for me personally, like things just got better for me. But you have to kind of get through the hard stuff to get to like the great stuff, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah, I realized too, like grief can be very crippling. Um,
mm-hmm,
like that can't get out of bed, like that sad, like why? And again, like I said, for me, being in a space where my dad and I were speaking before he passed,
mm-hmm,
I think the guilt more so took over me than the grief did,
mm-hmm.
because I'm like, yo, like we never got a chance to, figure this out. And I'm not gonna go into detail, but we never
Right,
got
right,
a
right.
chance to figure this out. Like I want to say I'm sorry, like I want to, and so
Mm-hmm.
like when you add that on top of grief, like I literally was walking around like a zombie during the time of my dad's death. And because it was so sudden, it was like literally like I saw like a picture of him. Um he had like just had a gig. My dad was a musician. No, actually it was a video. Like I had just saw a video of him maybe like a couple of days before, and now I'm getting a text message, excuse me. Like excuse me. So,
Right.
and I tell people all the time, I love my bonus mom, because I remember when we finally did speak about what happened, she was like, that's not how I wanted you to find out. So she didn't get the chance to be the first person to say these words to me. And I think for her, like that was a hurt as well, because like I'm
Yeah.
not delivering this news to you, somebody else did. And I've
Mm-hmm.
never fought at her for that. I've never been upset at her, because you just lost the love of your life,
Yeah.
you know. And I understand like you're trying to figure this out. And if you know my bonus mom, she's the sweetest, most amazing person ever, right?
Wow.
And I know that she wanted to be that first person. So for her not to be that first person, like you're grieving the death of the love of your life, but now you got to grieve the fact that like your daughter, like you weren't the first person to say that to her.
Yeah.
Um, and the thing that was so crippling about my dad was like I'm literally driving, and the text message, and again, like when you're reading a message that says, I'm sorry, I just saw your dad, gave him a hug, like, I'm here for you and Auntie Tanya, and you're like, what the fuck? What you mean?
Right.
What does this even mean? Like, what?
Right.
This doesn't even make sense. So, um, I literally remember like when I pulled into the church, like I felt like my chest was in my ankles. Like that's how
Mhm.
heavy it was. And now I still have to drive all the way back home. On this drive home, I'm literally calling my mother. My mother is like sobbing, my birth mother. She's crying. I'm like, I gotta call you back. I have to call my younger brother. Call him. He's breaking down. I'm not crying. I'm just straight. Are you okay? Like we'll get through it. Like it's fine. Call my older brother. He breaks down. I'm like, it's okay. It's fine. We'll get through it. Like it's okay. And all the while, I'm like, yo, like I'm processing it.
Yeah.
And I think when I went to their house, I went to his house and I went into his room and it was just like literally like, oh my God, like the physical part of you ain't gonna never be here again. And even now when I go to his house, I sometimes don't go into his room because it still feels surreal. Um and I remember one time, like the first Father's Day, I just laid on the couch and I just cried. And I just listened to voicemails because
Mhm.
um I just couldn't I just couldn't I just couldn't understand it. Like how you not here? How you not here? How? So, it'll be those days where again he's a musician, so a song will play and I'm like and I'm laughing, but I'm like, so you just check out like this? Like this how you gonna
Same.
check out?
Same.
Like you
Yes.
who told you to check out on me? Like
That is so funny. Yeah, well, not funny, but that's funny because me and my uncle, like, we had like this little inside joke. Because like my family and I, whenever we would get together, everybody would always want me to make daiquiris. And so, but then my family don't like to drink. Like, why y'all want daiquiris? I don't like to drink. But anyway, I would still put a little something in there just because, like, it help, the alcohol make the ice melt, whatever. Anyway, so one day my uncle was like, "You can make mine a little stronger, whatever." So I just started pouring up. And so then he was like, "Oh, this strong. Blame it on the alcohol." So now, right, but now what's so crazy is like I hear the song randomly, like whenever I listen to the radio, and it just kind of feels like he's just kind of like, there in a sense. But I know he's not there, of course, but it's one of those things. But he also, like, one of his other favorite songs is Never Would Have Made It. I think that's Marvin Sapp, I want to
never,
say.
never.
Yes. And around Christmas time, that song came on the radio and I just bawled. Like I just cried so hard. Like, but it was the first Christmas, or whatever. So it was just relatable that you said that about the music thing, because I just feel like, that is, you know, some way that they
Yeah.
kind of,
The year of I tell everybody like the year of first, baby, just be prepared. Just get the white
yeah.
sheet, as they say in the church, because just get the white sheet. Because so when my dad passed, I had Father's Day, his birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take that back. I had I had all of that, and I got married within that same time frame. So like I'm married, and like honestly, I don't really know how to be no wife. Like this is my first time. I'm trying to figure it out. But there was things that I like would want to call my dad about,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I'm like, yo, like there's a card, but like there's a cardboard cutout of you. Like how is this even possible? Um, and I tell people all the time, like I ain't gotta really get married again. But if I do, just know like they gonna be there in some form or fashion. um, I just some days I'm still in I don't know phase, and there's some days where I'm like, yo, I need my daddy, I need my
Yeah.
granny, like I need my auntie, I need my uncle, and it doesn't matter how old you get, like that love you miss. I miss
Hmm.
like just being able to go and have a drink with my dad and stumble down the stairs and don't remember how I got down the stairs and went to sleep. That's another story for another laugh. Um, but I think for me too is just making sure that I honor them. So I never
Yeah.
want to say like the memories and stuff because I still make them with them even now. But I always want to say like I honor them in the way that they would want to be honored. My
Hmm.
uncle wasn't, he didn't. My uncle was a church man. He sang in the choir. Me and my daddy, we ain't nah. Like we love God, we spiritual, but we not gonna be sitting up in that church like that. We not doing that. But I can say too, like having my bonus mom here definitely helps with that gap that I feel.
Hmm.
Because we have each other. So she knows if I call her and I'm like, it's just one of them days. And I know if she be like, it's just one of them days, or I'll say something to her
Yeah.
and she'd be like, you sound like your daddy. She always say like,
Oh,
you
wow.
cuss like your daddy. I definitely do. I'm my daddy's third son. Yes. Um, so I just try to honor them in the best way that I can and hope that everything that I do like makes them proud. Um,
Right.
it's always my prayer that they know I'm a pistol. So it's always my prayer that they hold me down while I'm out here in these streets getting it, but it definitely it definitely is one of them things, and as I'm sitting here, like I know if my dad was here, he would definitely get off, and he's a big guy, but he would soften up, his voice would go like this, and he'd be like, boo boo, you're just such a trooper, and I'm just so proud of you. And
Yeah.
not hearing that, definitely, like I said, my biggest moment is one of those
Yeah.
things where it's like, I know you would be if you were here.
Yeah. But you are a trooper. Like you're his trooper. Like although it is unfortunate that you don't hear it, you can feel it. Like his presence, um, in everything that you do, all of your accomplishments, everything that you do, like it's because you have a guardian angel, right? Like you have him as your angel looking over you, guiding you, even in the times that you may not know you're being guided, but um he's still with you. But I definitely get it. I definitely get it. So
Same with you. I definitely like. So what's funny, y'all, was I ain't know none of this about her until right now on this live. So when we get off, it's gonna be a conversation.
oh my god.
Um, but we coming up to the end of this live, and I want to say thank you so much
Already?
for yes, we at like 53 minutes, and they probably gonna
What?
cut us off and shit. So before they even cut us off and like put us out, I'm gonna go on here and just we gonna say our goodbyes because they not gonna cut me the fuck off in the middle of me talking. No, ma'am.
That is so rude. Like when they be playing the music at the award show to tell you to hurry on up,
Closing
but
time,
people
right?
still be talking.
That's us. Um, but I definitely want to say thank you for joining in on this first episode of Talking Shit. Guys, there will be more episodes to come. If there's something that you want me to talk about, or if there's a certain guest that you want me to bring in, let me know, and I will definitely make that happen. Sierra, thank you for taking the time out to share your story and be so transparent because I know you love being behind the scenes. So
This
this
was
is
really
definitely.
hard for me. This was
I know
really.
you did good, Savannah. You
I
did
appreciate it.
good.
I appreciate it.
So that is it, you guys. Definitely, like I've said before, Sierra, go ahead, close us out. Let them know again where they can find you, what you do for the people that missed you, and want to make sure I plug you because if you get rich, then I get
I
rich.
appreciate it.
You know, it's kind of one of
Period. We rich together, rich
them.
aunties. But again, thank you, Ashley, for having me on the first episode. I feel very honored. I am super excited to see the rest of the episodes come along. Hopefully, you'll have me back if the people like me or whatever. I don't know. Hopefully, I can be back.
You know,
But
I be
again, my name
trying
is.
to get all three of us, but I don't
That's
know.
a whole different topic. That is not Grief Chronicles. That's you already know Chronicles. But anyway, again, my name is Sierra Sherella. You can find me on all social media at Sierra Sherella, CIERRACHERYELLE, baby, because period. And then I'm also on YouTube. My channel name is A Little Bit of C, and that's C with two E's. But yeah, I look forward to hopefully returning, and I look forward to the rest of the episodes. And I hope you guys walked away with some tools, some resources, or just the feeling of community to know that, you know, there are lots of people grieving and lots of grief out there. And so, you know, we all just need to stick together, support each other, lean on one another, and just be there. So thank y'all for tuning in to Grief Chronicles, and we will see y'all in the next episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.